In this chapter, we will discuss how you can loop with iterations. That means just a number of times that you would like to run through a certain loop. So let's start an example here and add a loop. Let's select here number of times. The times you would loop. Let's use 5 here. Let's also add a data create element. And let's define it that it will display the name, the value. Let's do the same thing for data. There we will use the count or the value as well. Doesn't really matter. Let's change the name of the loop. Loop iterations. Let's save it and let's run it. It's done running. Let's look at the data. Click on manage. And here you'll find now value index 0 to 4, which is 5 times running through the loop. Let's delete this data for a moment. And now let's add some few things. Let's add a condition join decision. Delete that node and add a new node on the right path. And let's also add a loop break. Let's set the data to display the value and the count. And the decision will take the loop definition, the count, not the value because I was showing the index, etc., but the count itself. And let's put in there 2. That means we will only run one time through the loop. The first time, the second time, the count will be 2 and it will stop doing the loop. Let's run this. Let's now take a look at the data. And we will find only one entry there because at the second entry, so the value is now 1 at the first iteration. And when the iteration was 2, it broke the loop. Now let's see how we can loop through an array. Very often you have a JSON that you can loop through, but what about a normal simple array? I'm going to create here a data store that I give a name array. And I'm going to place in there just an array of elements. So straight brackets, I'm going to add a 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to copy the data here that I may need for later. I'm going to conditions, loop, and looping now through the elements. And as they loop, I'm going to use the value of the data. I'm also going to add a Slack post message API call. So just that we can show the results. So post message, set my authorization, and I'm going to post this into the identity channel. And I'm going to lead with value just to make sure that we got something. And I'm going to use the value that we receive from that loop. And now I'm going to run this flow. Now let's take a look at Slack. And we can see here indeed that the three values 1, 2, and 3 from the array are posted to Slack. I'm going to repeat this just for your information, but I'm going to do it a little bit different. I'm going to create again a data name temp array, and I'm just going to put in here a text, which I will do A-B-C, and I'm going to loop through the elements of the data store. I'm first going to read it again so that I'm sure that I got the right data. So read from that data store. And as a loop, I'm going to use the value of the data store that I've just read. And in Slack, I'm going to post this to a different channel to make it easier to read and see. And I'm going to run this. And what you will see now is that we have walked over every element in that string. You can see here A-B-C. So we kind of use or consider a string as an array of characters. Now what I would like to do is I would like to get or split this into the A, B, and C without the dashes. So it's just an example, and I'm going to use therefore the split function. I'm going to start with the data that I got from the data store, and I'm going to split by dash. And later I would like to loop through this element, but right now I can't loop through that element yet because I cannot select any transformed data yet. So let me first start this loop. And now let's go to the results of our loop, the transition. And you will find here in the response that it has created an array of 3 elements split by the dash. I'm going to copy the array, and I'm going to feed that array into the schema of the transform data. Let me take away that part, paste it in here, and save it. Now we do have a transformed value, and I'm going to use that transformed value as the feed for the loop. And I'm going to run this loop again. And now we can see in Slack that indeed it looped through the 3 different elements in the array.